This is the St. Mark's Street Park. This is December. What day is it? 8th?
Yes.
Okay, it is December 8th. It is 7 p.m. and we are meeting at the Public Safety Building.
Just one quick question.
Sure, absolutely.
Kevin has said that sometimes the audio for the owl is very faint, and we don't have. Sometimes there's supplemental mics. And I can see this here, so.
Yeah, the select board is sometimes difficult to hear. So
you're speaking kind of softly.
We'll speak up. Okay.
And maybe face the owl when you
No,
talk.
the owl adjusts. It automatically adjusts.
That thing is so creepy. All right. The first agenda item is to review and approve the minutes of November 12 and December 2. With your forbearance, I would like to move that to the end of the meeting.
What is it?
To do the minutes at the end of the meeting, because right now I have an idea. All right, we are going to talk now about the preparation of the interim report, and we are going to have an editorial discussion. With your forbearance, I would like you to do the following things for me. Here, this paper, take some more, take a bunch, take a lot.
Pen.
You have a pen, somebody needs a pen, do we have an extra pen? All right, same thing here. Thank you. I'll give you Bonnie's. How's that? You can keep it. Bonnie has 2.
Oh.
Right? Also,
Can I ask
here
a question
for you.
before we start? If you want to do this first.
What is it?
I thought we were going to discuss the public forum before we could.
No, I want to do this right now, and then we'll do the public forum. Is that okay?
Well, I just don't know how we write a report and we haven't discussed the public input.
Humor me for a minute.
Right.
I'm intrigued. What's the plan?
Being free. All right. Please, everybody, including me, I would like you to write one sentence that you would like to appear in the interim report.
And now there would be a pop quiz.
Quiz. I'm going to
Second
write one too.
Can I ask a question of the chair?
Sure.
Is it a takeaway from that meeting or how we first?
No, just you, Bonnie. What sentence would you like to
how
see appear in this interim report? I just really want to get into the weeds here.
One sentence, right? Or is it a paragraph or?
Well, if it goes to a paragraph, then go for it.
Can I say something at the form I sent out? So as you all know, I sent out a form 2 days ago. We've gotten 4 responses out of 7, so if. I did leave the option to not answer any of the questions. Did anyone acknowledge it and not want to answer it?
I answered it just before the meeting. Did you get that?
Let me check.
I didn't want to answer most of the questions because I didn't think it provided input for a little of this, a little of that. It was yes or no, no maybes, kinda. So I
That's
realized
why-
that's what you were looking for, but
Perfect.
so I answered them all. But I would not in public support my answers. How's that?
That's all right. It's supposed to be anonymous, so I'll give everyone the opportunity if they can to fill it out.
Okay, that's a good idea. Thank you for doing it. Okay, do we all have a sentence?
No, not yet.
Okay. Okay, part 2, give me a paragraph. Give me a paragraph that you would like to see appear in the interim report.
Again, I'm going to object because we haven't reviewed the public forum where how do we say, I think it's premature. We haven't discussed it.
I should just give this exercise a try and see.
So my first question is, my tenant is, this is the feedback we received at the public forum. And this is how the committee processed that. How am I going to write what we're going to put in it if we haven't discussed what we heard?
I think this is like more of a personal thing. If it's a thought exercise, pick it up.
Okay, good, thank you. Sentence in the paragraph. Just that you would actually like to see appear in the document.
With the draft, just not really have any substantive changes from previously.
No, I just sent that out because Freddie said her computer crashed.
Oh, okay.
And the beginning part of that draft, which has the history, is simply going to be an addendum on the back. It's not going to be it's just going to be like, here, if you have an extra hour, you don't know what to do with yourself, read this. Okay. Or we have done our due diligence. Here's I think the important part is that just the recommendations.
So mine's really a long sentence, which is almost like a paragraph, which is just, right, I think.
Right. Any of you gonna dare to say it out loud?
All right, if everyone's done, Kevin is still ready.
You can go right ahead.
Okay. So here's what I had in mind. The working group recommends the theme for the park be the town's tricentennial, with a central gathering place and historical plaques roughly corresponding to Miss Fiore's proposal to recognize previously overlooked contributors to Southborough's history both before and after 1772, with the exact content of these plaques be recommended to the select board at a later date by either the working group historical commission or another body, and with further details as to the exact design elements, construction costs, etc., table until town meeting vote on land swap off article, and with an opportunity for another public forum to discuss same after town.
Oh, what the word.
Oh. One sentence?
It's like a motion.
He gets like $7 million an hour, right? Okay. Bonnie, are you of a mind to let us know?
Well, may I make a suggestion?
Yes.
Just the working group numbers, I think it's more appropriate for us
Maybe.
to,
This
you
kind
know.
of public input. All right, so I wrote, the opinion of this working group member was that the best design for the time being was to minimalize the design, to put down grass seed and a few benches and level the land, make it handicap accessible, and leave possible future development for another date and consideration. It's like the blind man with the elephant, right? We have one. And then I said the final design of the park could be by a design competition nationwide and also be overseen by the working group, and a donor for the park could ultimately be sought. And the naming of the park should be an open competition in town, including the school children, all residents, in a town-wide competition overseen by the working group.
Yes.
Yes.
I think that despite the history of the site, or perhaps because of it, the area should be made usable for the public, hopefully at as little cost as possible, because the space is both a symbolic and a near physical center of the town.
Yeah, my sentence was the creation of a park on the proposed parcel should be conditional on the town having acquired public ownership of the land. And my paragraph was the proposed park should have a minimal impact upon the land with few, if any, impervious surfaces. The park should have a natural feel with grass, native plants, and trees, and be fairly open and not too shady. The historical theme should be incorporated given the parcel's long history and central location in the town.
Okay, ready?
So the park is a gateway to the town, includes many historical components from our colonial past. For peaceful, passive recreation, to have natural nature connections. The working group carefully considered many opinions and options for the use of the land. Many of these were discussed and the options were reviewed and presented at the public forum. They included blank, blank, blank. And after careful consideration, the working group chose to blank, blank, blank.
Okay,
This park should engage Southborough residents in the center area as a coherent whole. This park should provide space and resources to residents and community organizations that support their interests and reflect the unique culture of the living.
It's me, I guess.
And what you said.
What do you want to strengthen? The sentence is the park needs a unifying concept. The rest of it doesn't have it. The paragraph, and it's quite personal, and I apologize because it should include a recognition of the design work done by Patty Sally. But the paragraph I have is, to date, the working group has struggled to come up with a unifying concept for the site. This is due to a variety of factors. The lack of any budget parameters, the lack of a clear public mandate for any park at all, the fact that results of the long-delayed archaeological dig only became available in the last 6 weeks. Also a factor, in my view, is the lack of architectural and/or landscape design experience on the working group. The limited consultancy by VHB was helpful, but yielded what I personally regard as rather generic designs, none of which was widely embraced at the public forum. More public forums, including via Zoom, seem called for, but what I would advocate strongly for is a design competition that would attract design students and professionals locally and perhaps nationally or even internationally. This is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. It should not be rushed in the name of making a problem go away.
can you email it to me?
Yeah, sure.
Great, okay. Ronnie, would you care to share?
Just the answer to the first question.
Pardon?
Are you asking just the answer for the first question?
Everything, you've got it, if you want to.
All right. I think there's too many moving, I'm talking as a citizen, not as a committee member and someone that attended the forum. I think there's too many moving parts. We need to take a pause, review again after the new road, St. Mark's Road is developed and finished in the spring of 2023. The town library trustees needs to evaluate the parking and the space needs of the library at its current site location before the town adds anything permanent to that location that may hinder the development of the library building in the future and address their current needs.
Okay. Is that your sentence?
Are we having another public forum here? Because I thought the working group was going to do our charge and make our recommendation. And I don't know that this is part of our agenda.
Well, let's just.
I don't like going to a meeting where it's a surprise what we're discussing. We have a charge. This is the last meeting before we go back to the selectmen, correct?
Well, I think the point of tonight's meeting is to arrive at a consensus as much as possible of the content of this recommendation. And then, I brought Marguerite's draft here. I mean, I think the main part is like, what is the recommendation? And I would be open to next week's schedule if provided there's some bottom line recommendation. Then I'm open to trying to schedule another meeting next week. It would just be, there would be one agenda item to review. One of us would take this into a further draft report. And then, this wouldn't be to completely change the whole recommendation. It would be just to finalize the letter. And I mean, I can give you my quick feedback to some of people's reactions.
But can I go back
Okay,
to the,
let me just introduce.
no, let me finish.
No,
because
Freddie, I'm
we-
overriding it. I am the chair and I'm
leaving this. This has been
Great.
non-stop.
I agree. That's me.
If you would see the
Freddie.
email she's been sending me all day, you wouldn't say that.
Well, let's just try to.
Here's the thing, we didn't advertise having the public come in and provide input on what our recommendation is. I think that's a violation of our agenda, to open it up to a few people here without everyone knowing that's what we were planning to do. We have not discussed what we heard at the public forum. How do we move forward with our recommendation?
Well,
We had a public forum.
Look, I think if you're patient, we can do that.
Why are we discussing what's going in it before we do it? Why?
So I think you gotta work through some of the things that just people have said here and then get to that.
And I haven't sent you any nasty emails about this committee, Marguerite.
Should we take a quick recess?
Yes.
Freddie,
Freddie, we'll take a 5-minute recess.
can I clarify something? Yeah, but I think I just contributed to this, and it's unfortunate. What I said this evening was what I said at my small group. At my table, so it's not anything that hadn't been discussed.
Not the point. That we're in recess, so.
We haven't voted on, but I really wish you would say.
I don't know, I had a fight to have that public forum, and now we have not once discussed what we heard there.
I'd like to move, we take a 5-minute recess by unanimous consent. Is there any objection?
No objection.
Hearing none, we take a 5-minute
Can you turn
recess.
off the owl?
We return at 7:32.
Is the owl off? I didn't sign up to be abused.
I'm sorry.
She's abusive. I know she's in a bad mood, but she's abusive, and I didn't sign up for
Okay,
this.
no.
And I'm not sure. I know that when I know that when a grant is given, it's understood that there can be certain deviations from what the original one was written for. So I think part of it is how much is this strictly compliant with the original grant, and will we get in trouble and does that have to be repaid? The other section is, I think, Freddie, an open space question, which is what percentage of this could be open space, and I think that's a decision for. I think that's a decision for down the road. Because I don't know what percentage of this piece of land would open space would be in control of, or for planting on.
So we're never in control of any of this. We're sitting here just like every other member here. We wrote a support letter to get the grant funding. And I think the implication was just as historical wrote a support letter for the historical aspect of it.
Right.
Whether we're legally required to or not, I have no idea. I'm just saying that the original concept was equally, and I'll be honest, pollinators are a hot topic right now, so that helped get the funding. I guarantee it's why that the pollinator was included.
Right.
It's a park aspect. The Open Space Preservation Commission perspective on planting is more, we're in an ecological crisis, and we have got to get the native plants in there with thoughtful consideration. And we did have, under the current plan, review of which plants were included, that the majority of anything that's not a specific small grass area, all of the trees, shrubs, and other plantings were natives to New England straight species. And that's the way the town needs to go everywhere, but are not required to yet.
Okay, so this is one issue with this piece of property, which is what proportion is going to be grass and what proportion is going to be native pollinators?
So
how does that get decided?
I'm not,
well,
we don't even have a
idea.
plan yet, so.
Exactly. So if we say grass it over and there's no pollinators, then what have we done?
okay, so just big picture and also focused on trying to move forward. And I appreciate everything you said, Kevin, about we feel things shouldn't be rushed. I think the way I kind of phrase it, like, there's plenty of time to adjust course. I just think that, I mean, being on the select board, I think the other people on the select board will want to know, okay, what value came out of the numerous meetings that we had. And I think, Marguerite, I don't really like your proposed recommendation, respectfully, just because I feel like it just doesn't really propose much. It just says we should do nothing. And then I definitely agree. We've reached a point probably at which, you know, there's a town meeting vote coming up in March, and just being respectful of everyone's time, maybe it makes sense. I think it does, to try to just have an interim report that would show this is the value that has come from these meetings so far. And it's at least to say, if we were to build a park here are some fairly concrete ideas of what could go there. And that's why I do think you know, this has been well, let me just finish for it. I think that Mr. Klugman had some, you know, we went through that process and I thought there were some really good suggestions. Certainly there was some feedback that, you know, if there was too many elements in there, it felt cramped, or there should be more grass, there should be more permeable surface. I'm open to that. Also, you know, things that came out of the not the working group, the public forum with the table I was at with Bonnie, and is, you know, space for future library expansion. My understanding is that any actual expansion of the library would be like a decade into the future in order to get
20 years.
Okay,
Yeah.
so I think the takeaway from that is not to put anything there that's too permanent. And I think that I also really appreciate Patty's proposal, because I think it has to engage with what the charge of the working group is, to kind of have a recommendation for a theme, a name, and some design elements. I think it's a very good compromise. I mean, the one thing I had a suggestion, and I don't know how much additional detail we need to go into this tonight, but is to have a path that kind of connects the circular space down to the library, so that someone who is at the library could walk there. And you could have it, we don't need to get into the detail right now. Would this be like a concrete path or a, you know, a crushed stone path? But that's a way that kind of, it's excellent, because the original idea of this was for History Walk. This is centered around the History Walk. And, you know, the concerns about having a lower impact design. This does that. And just at a certain point, like I'm against a recommendation that there be a future recommendation. There's going to be some at least contact to this. It's all preliminary. But, you know, people spend a lot of time on this. Let's express an opinion.
All right.
On that topic, Andrew, on giving a concrete opinion, I've reading over this interim report draft. I'm thinking we've already collected about 15 or so things. We got another 10 ideas from that public forum that I listed. We so far have expressed a bit of an opinion on some of those items, like for example, people are mostly opposed to a pond or some kind of fountain, and we should include that in reports. So I'm thinking for this recommendation section, recommendations for the space, we can put, we'll say, depending on what the town decides to do in the future, we think this space should include XYZ. It should have some new trees, it should have planted lawn and shrubs. And we can say, here's some other ideas in input from the public. And that's it. That would be the report.
One question, everybody. Who would support Patty's design?
I want to say something about it before you ask that, because what we had decided to do at the public forum that didn't happen was that each table would have their own large plan, and that each table would be drawing a design. Patty's table did exactly what that would have envisioned.
Right.
We did not have those plans, and that's a type of public forum where this is wonderful, but we would have gotten 4 of them with public input.
Didn't we distribute
We
sheets of
did. We
paper with
distributed blank
each of the-
sheets, and people just didn't do it.
Well, no,
It wasn't what we
I
discussed to
think
do.
I participated at a table that basically didn't do it. And I think another reason to maybe hold off on doing a public forum until town meeting is, at any public forum, it's a natural, understandable question. Well, who's going to own the land, and how much is this going to cost, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. It has to go through, I think, certain just kind of stages. And I think the way that, you know, the recommendation that I had proposed leaves time for another public forum. And then, I mean, I think that the select board just wants to hear where we are at, and if the consensus is okay to have, you know, this is productive enough that we should have another public forum between now and town meeting, but that kind of presupposes that this town meeting vote is gonna go one way or the other. I don't know. So maybe we should just.
Spring, it's could I be winter break? It's gonna be all kinds of things.
Could I suggest that,
Go ahead.
first of all, I would say of the 3 VHB proposals, and then adding this one here, My favorite would be this one here, but I would make adjustments to it. And then I would also say that doing it after town meeting makes sense. And if you had a forum, we would just ask people to focus on the design elements, because now you ended this conversations about after town meeting, depending what happens, ownership and all of those side topics. You know, but to say that this is the plan, I'm not prepared to go there. I think it's the best of the ones. It has a lighter touch. Something that came up at the meeting that maybe wasn't in the reports that I think is critically important is the heritage trees, that was a major component of our discussions. I know I heard people talking about the native trees, the large trees. So that is very important. And the pollinator garden, that topic, I want to raise 2 points. People have said, keep them away from the kids and the bees, and the bees are not interested. These native bees do not sting kids. It's the honeybees. We would not be putting plants in there to attract honeybees. It's the that do the stinging. Most of our native bees, particularly the bumblebees and the butterflies, aren't interested. Kevin, you had that little walk with me.
Yes.
We'll have to do it again, but someone who was afraid of bees saw.
I wasn't afraid of bees, but I get your point.
They were not, I don't mean afraid of bees, but they were not interested in stinging you, were they? They're just, so that's an important, when these notices go out and people keep saying, keep the bees away from the kids, our goal is to bring the kids to the bees. Not that we want to plant the pollinator garden around the playgrounds, but we need to be clear messaging. That's not something to be afraid of. And then the other thing is the pollinator gardens were part of a wetland, a rain garden component to help deal with the rainwater. And I think that is still, even with the infrastructure that's been added, that is still an issue there with the high water table. And another thing you heard at the public forum that I don't see captured here is a reduction in lawn. We never said all lawn, no lawn, but a reduction. You pick out what areas you need lawn in the parcel, and then come up with lawn alternatives for the others. You don't need lawn everywhere unless you're playing games there.
Okay, so can I just, in the interest of what time is it? It's 8 o'clock, so we're good. Can I say that I would suggest in the interim report that we state that there's a wide variety of opinions in town, right? Which we have somewhat sampled, but that Patty's design, or an approximation of Patty's design, is the closest that we have arrived at for something that, you know, given that certain elements may move around, but yes, here is a tangible design. It's maybe that it needs a path to get to there from the other side. We don't know, but approximately contains the elements that we can all more or less agree on in some format would work in that space.
I don't think we've discussed it and decided that yet. You know, I'd like to discuss the plan, but
let's do it.
At first, I think, you know, James had us take this survey so that we could figure out who agrees on what and who doesn't agree on these different elements. And I think that'd be very useful to find the results of that going into our discussion of what we actually want to see.
Okay, but I'm going to say one other thing independent of that. Again, as Kevin had mentioned earlier in a different meeting, we're not engineers, so we do not know the constraints of drainage around in here. So that we can say, oh no, people don't want a rain garden. Maybe we need it, right? Maybe we don't. I think that some of that remains to be seen by a landscaping architect or engineer. You see what I mean? So we can say, oh, it's no rain garden, yes, rain garden, but someone can come in here with experience and say, well, you sort of need it, or well, you really don't. You see what I mean? So we can say, oh, we hate the idea, but they may say, oh, you need.
Well, just the survey that James put out there included feedback from the public forum, and we talked about how we want to incorporate that. So, you know, I'm kind of curious.
I think we should.
I talked about it last meeting.
I think we absolutely should.
I'm wondering, I have an idea, so I'm going to read something out and then we can get on to responding to these ideas from the public forum. That is, the working group recommends that to leave room for any future improvement, The minimum to be done to the space to make it usable by the public should include planting native plants and shrubs, 2, planting lawn, 3, planting trees, including large heritage trees, 4, leaving rooms for benches, a small plaza, and a path through the parcel, and 5, making space for historical markers in the space. Furthermore, that 4 designs as a result of VHB and public comment are inspirations for future finalized design. Below are the specific opinions on the working group on specific items to go in the park and the themes for the historical markers and name. Does that sound good?
That
It
sounds
does,
reasonable.
but what was the name? Because I didn't agree on the Tricentennial Park.
Exactly. So we'll put in our opinions. We have, I think 3 or 4 ideas on historical theme and name. So I think we would include those, but say it's still open. We don't have a final name either.
Well, what do you think it should be?
What do I think it should be?
Yeah.
Oh boy. I don't know. I'm leaning between Tricentennial Park, which has a good ring to it, and some way to, if that is indeed the home of William Washington. Seems like
Sally can speak to William Washington.
if it's not, then it'd be good to honor in some way. That that's just my opinion. To get the whole opinions of the whole group, but I did send out this form, but I'm wondering if right now there's only 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16 things, 15 items, and then the 4 plans. So I'm wondering if rather than, I think, talking a little bit around these things, we could end with just taking a vote. Would that be the term for it? Or like gather the opinion of the group on these things?
Isn't that what the survey was?
It is, it was the survey was, but so far we only have 4 responses. So if we want to finalize the interim report.
I would say, I thought how you just proposed that is our recommendation. Sounded pretty good to me. And I think you need to say it again so we have it.
Yes.
Whatever.
All right, I'll actually listen to it again.
So
Can I just, before we start, say why I didn't like the Tricentennial Park? Because I did it first. But we're talking about indigenous peoples and marginalized people, and we're naming it after
So, okay.
what caused all those
Think about
problems.
that,
So
right.
think about that.
Yeah.
Well, but I was. Okay.
We can have a tricentennial celebration at the park, but celebrating colonialization in a park, you're talking about other issues for the history.
Okay, I think the way I had it is that the historical plaques, the content of which is not going to be decided. Really, I think it makes sense to have a future group look into that. That's why I added the phrase, but to recognize contributors both before and after 1772. That was my idea of the compromise. So I do like the name though.
You know, I actually, I'm sorry to interrupt. Am I continue?
When I'm done.
Well, I just wanted to say I actually appreciate the dialogue between the two of you, and I appreciate the comment because I actually think that what Freddie just said sort of impacts me a little bit, and I actually think that I was the one that at the table I was at the table with Patty and Sally and Grant. I think I floated the tricentennial idea, and hearing what you're saying asked me personally backing away from it a little bit. I mean, I think we could be open-minded about it and maybe come up with a name that is more inclusive or a heritage park.
Why are we coming up with the name? Why?
We don't have to come up with a name.
we came up with a few ideas.
I'm just saying that I just found that a very interesting
I think we
exchange.
should
I
promote
think the Heritage Park, that sounds.
I think that sounds even better because it's not just the white colonial.
Right, it's all of South
Heritage Day.
Heritage Park, Heritage Day. I mean, all I'm trying to say is, you know, again, I don't come into this hardened in cement on any position. I'm willing to be convinced.
Okay, so a tentative name a working name for the park would be heritage.
Oh, well, we're about to, here, can I read this again?
Yes.
So, the working group recommends that to leave room for any future improvement, the minimum to be done to the space to make it usable by the public should include planting native plants and shrubs, planting lawn, planting trees, including large heritage trees, leaving room for benches, a small plaza, and a path through the parcel, and making space for historical markers in the space.
Can we put that in the interim report, please?
This is the thing for the, this is the thing
Yes.
for the interim report.
Yes.
Furthermore, that 4 designs as a result of the engineering firm VHB and through public comment are inspirations for future finalized designs. Below are the opinions of the working group on specific items, historical themes, and potential names. And so I have a spreadsheet right in front of me.
Mhm.
So it'll only be 15 things. So the last question I have is, should we do this by simple approval where you only say if you support it, or should we include? I think actually, yes, we can include disapproval and no opinion. I can mark that in here pretty easily.
Up or down vote.
Up, down, or no vote.
Can I add one thing to add?
Sure.
Where you say planting lawn, that's not what came out of many
Mm.
points there. It was planting lawn where appropriate
Mm.
and using lawn alternatives in other areas.
Should I?
It wasn't the whole thing is
Well, I've
lawn.
heard people say lawn, so I don't.
So I just, James, to go off of what you had suggested, I mean, I would just add, where you emphasize, attached are some plans which have been reflect these ideas, whatever. But then, I don't know, just to me, I am more of a visual learner. To have a report that just says all these things, the park should have these 15 things or these 12 things, doesn't really say that much. But again, my opinion is from all the different things that have been generated, I think that Patty's suggestion, there's a lot of appeal to it. And, it addresses a lot of the concerns that I think to me, that's my opinion. And Kevin, if you can leave open the idea to make a recommendation that, another idea is to take this idea and say, I don't even know how this really works, the design competition and how it works with like a RFP process and everything. But if someone has an idea that's really kind of modeled off of this, that would be a little bit different, that's fine too. But I just think that if there should be some visual content.
I agree.
I think we should have Patty's design as the one that we are closest to support.
Well, we'll come to that with taking the opinion of the group. And I'm wondering, Freddie, if I can I reordered it. So it's planting native plants and shrubs, planting trees, including large heritage trees, and planting lawn or lawn alternatives wherever plants and trees are not. Is that a good way to phrase it?
No, because, sorry, I understand what you're trying to do, but we will have some sidewalks and there will be some paths, so it won't be just, so that the reality is you need lawn in certain areas, but you don't need the whole park.
We'll say planting lawn or lawn alternatives where appropriate. How's that?
That sounds wonderful, makes it, and it's leaving it open because it depends on what the use of the area is. For the story time, you want lawn, right? Or a place to sit on the lawn.
I think that's close enough to.
Great.
But other areas you can use ground covers, and we really need to be reducing our lawns or have lawn. There's other lawn alternatives, but
all right, now do we need to call a vote on this? Are we ready?
Yes, with permission of the, can we do this by hand signals, or do we?
Before we take a vote, I think this might even be the first time it's ever taken a vote. Adjourn.
Sure.
There are two, Patty has her hand raised and Joanne Pearson has her.
Then
Okay.
why don't we take public comment while I set this
can
up
I just ask? Kevin said something earlier.
for Grant?
I'm sorry, Grant. Sorry, I forget, but what's your take on using this before we vote? I mean, is this a process you support at all?
Yeah, I mean, you know, Marguerite said that we all agreed on Patty's plan, which I'm not saying I don't. I like Patty's plan, but we just didn't really talk about it. And to be honest, we didn't really talk about which of the other 3 plans we liked. The reason I liked James's survey was that it forced us to rank what was our favorite plan, what was our least favorite plan. I have a clear least favorite. I'm not afraid to say that the second plan number 2 is my least favorite with the amphitheater. I don't necessarily have a clear favorite beyond that, but you know, I think that's why I was curious to hear what the rank the survey results were, because I wanted to hear.
There's an amphitheater.
Yeah, the zigzag one was an amphitheater, number 2.
So
The plaza.
No,
just
the one
before
that
we
was
moved on,
zigzag.
kind of an agreement on a plan, I would like to take a vote on these specific elements, but I'd also like to discuss what our favorite plan was, what our least favorite plan was, and why, perhaps. And you know, that doesn't necessarily need to go in the report. We can include all 4 and say these are 4 plans that have come forth, but you know, just for the purpose of the group, I think that could be useful.
All right, why don't you start?
So maybe we'll just say people can share their opinions, but not everyone has to speak on every plan. Is that okay, Greg?
Sure.
Great.
Am I going first?
Yes.
Okay. I will go backwards. So I'll say my least favorite. So number 4 is plan number 2. Michael Kluchman's plan number 2. My second, or I guess number 3 would be, so number 4 and number 3 would be plan number 1.
It's kind of hard to. We all be looking at the same plans.
I remember them clearly enough.
So give me a minute to look, because I don't know.
What I'm trying to do is share screens.
Could you do that?
That'd be wonderful.
That's why I was saying we should learn how to use that. We're going to use this room again.
Can we put it on the TV here as well?
I don't know how to do that.
For the next meeting, we will learn, maybe, if we have a next meeting.
To project it up there?
I'm not saying to do it tonight. Share your screen is great. What do you, are you balking at the next meeting idea?
I know, I'm not, I'm just. Today was just my first day learning how to operate the owl, so that'll add IT.
So, can I just ask?
I've gotten used to it, for the select board staff does all of this for you, and this is where I'm doing all this.
All right, I have not 1, 2, or 3, and
I'm not in favor of any of those plans, so I'm just gonna.
So
I liked a little bit of some of them.
Yep, I like elements of them, but I think Patty's has it all, but I don't know.
Well, there were things not in hers that I would like in hers that were in these other ones. So there we go.
shall I continue with my?
Yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
Okay, so so my 4th least, or yeah, I'll go the other way. I think my favorite is if I had to choose, would be plan number 3. I kind of like that one most. My second most would be Patty's. I think if we added a path on Patty's plan connecting it to the library parking lot, that would be great. Then my 3rd would be number 1, and my last would be number 2.
Also, your most favorite one is which one?
If I had to choose, it would have to probably be number 3. I like the path and the plaza over by the old fairground, kind of. But that's just me.
Everyone keeps
And
talking.
number 3 and Patty's are very close to me, so.
Okay. I liked all the Clutchman ones, but I think at the present time I support Patty's as my number 1.
So I think I had the same as Grant, not Kevin. And I like number of the 3 VHB ones. I like number 3 the best. it had the least amount of pathways, but it did have a pathway through the park, and I think that's important. I think number 2 was my least favorite, but I thought that might have been trying to deal with the handicapped access coming in from up high. How do you not have a steep slope to get a wheelchair or other mobility issues through there? And number 1 was okay. But when I looked at the plan that, and is it just Patty, or was this I think there was several people, Sally and other people. So one of the things we keep talking about, connection to the library parking lot. I'm not in favor of that because you're dumping people into a parking lot with cars driving in and out. And one of the points of this project originally also was the downtown connection and walking. We talk about a history walk, but it was also to bring people to be able to walk from the library from further up 85 to downtown, or from downtown, bringing them up here. So it makes sense to me to have a walkway from a sidewalk somewhere between the driveway entrance into the library parking lot, closer to that end than to the St. Mark's Street. Because people, if they're walking from downtown coming here, or if they're coming from here to downtown, that's how they're going to go. They're not only going to be wanting to leave the park up on the west north side over towards where the history walk is planned.
Yeah, and I have to say, in agreement with that, that I see Patty's and Sally's design where it wouldn't be that much of a hassle to just run a single path over to the library parking lot if you needed to. Well, I mean, this is like, I see this as not locked in stone, so to speak.
Right.
Could be.
But I'm saying not to the library parking lot.
Well, in that direction.
Because people, if you're on a sidewalk, you want to get into the park as soon as possible and not have to walk into the parking lot to go into the park. Somewhere over here.
Yes, agreed.
Because that sidewalk is going to be extended per the new plans, right? For the sidewalks in Southborough.
Yes, agreed.
So you want access into the park where the most people are going to be walking. And if people are walking from downtown, that's the way. Or from the school or from the playing fields. And also on this plan, I think one of the things it doesn't mention that's a historical asset is the original mustering ground. There was a requirement to create the town. You had to have the mustering ground, the cemetery, and the church, right? So I just wanted to add that. It wasn't, but aside from that, the tree placement, that's also debatable. One of the things I also want to know is where the prevailing winds, remember we asked about that? And where the sun shadows are, because that knowledge is critical to plan where you're going to plant trees. You're going to have kids sitting in the shade, you don't want them the shade over on the street and the kids over in the hot sun. And you need to know, and also where the prevailing winds are.
Before this would, because it was done by people who are not VHB, right? I would be willing to think that this is an approximation, and that any of these, I like it because it's absolutely minimal, and it has the least hardscape. And I think that this is an approximation, and that when it's going to be built, people will say, well, let's move these trees a little bit here or there. It's not like it's locked in bronze right now. I would say these are the elements I like. Simple, not a lot of hardscape, and trees, and native plants, and just wide open, not a lot of everything going on. That's what I'm seeing here in this design. I'm not saying like, no, you can't have a path here, you could do that. And I'm sure that that would be with the original intention of it. If you ended up with people walking across the grass and leaving a dirt path, you think you need.
But we're looking at making it accessible. Right?
Mm-hmm, exactly.
And if there's any mention of the Braille and other things such as that for any interpreted signage.
Was that on the others?
Anywhere in our recommendations that we look at not just physical accessibility, but making it accessible in many ways.
Right.
We
But usually
discussed that.
QR codes for the phone voice rather
For
than braille.
We
Oh,
can-
really? How do you
Maybe that can
find
be
the
more
QR
specific.
code?
Different, it's a different discussion. So we're going on, so Freddie likes, which one, number one? Just your most,
of the four?
yes,
I like the Sally and Patty one the most, with changes. I'm not a fan of the evergreen trees, and I'd want to know more about the need for a windbreak, because that would block the view to the cemetery for people driving by, which is coming from that north going south into town.
okay. But number one with adjustments and modifications.
And
But-
more discussion and input.
Yeah, all right. Bill, are you with us?
I am.
What are your choices?
Let me just, I read an objective or a paragraph in something, so let me just pick a few words out before I go into my selections here. To serve to knit the center together, the town center together. I thought that was an important component. And provide space and resources to residents and local organizations to support their interests. And then subsequently to talk about our cultural heritage. Southborough's a unique city, unlike Westboro, Marlboro, or anyone else. Unique city for various reasons. So a park in that context has to draw people in. In other words, it's not just an open area. It's an area that allows people to gather, join, express interests, do things, as the case may be, and to make that downtown area more than a vapid little open space that occasionally people will walk through. So in that context, I liked Plan 2. Because it provided people an area where they could gather for various purposes. Not only could they sit around tables and on benches, but there was kind of an organized seating area where, in fact, presentations, small concerts, whatever could actually be done. I like it for that purpose. Some of the other areas, some of the other plans I thought had interesting components, which could be included in something like that. In other words, we're not dealing with only one unique thing. We're dealing with potentially a collection of things that can be mobilized together. Now, once we say that, I think it's impractical to believe that this is going to happen. A decision like this is going to be made this coming spring even. First of all, we have a lot of decisions that have to be made. And then we have the issue of how is the community going to approve monies for this? And that's yet another longer term discussion. And so there is no question in my mind that the park, whether we come up with a finalized design, that park will proceed in stages and be built in stages for all intents and purposes. And so a minimalistic area. Sally's design is about as minimalistic as we can get. Oh, Patty's design, it's about as minimalistic as we can get. I don't think it draws anybody into the park for purpose, but it's probably a good first step. And then we have to decide how we want to make that park grow and change and become something that can be the coordinating element for the city center. So Plan 2 is the ultimate design, and an interim design would be, something small.
Patty Sally's?
Whatever, yeah. I mean, because my point is that and we have to have objectives for when in fact we want these stages to occur, but that's a first stage. And what we do is when we put that together and we sit and watch what happens within that area, we learn from it. And somebody, we may actually see, geez, that's perfect. People are gathering all over the place for various purposes. That's exactly what we wanted to happen. On the other hand, nobody shows up. But a few dogs and a few other things that come running through there, and that'll be about the size of it. Maybe that's what we'll find. In which case we then say, oh, well, maybe there are other things that we can do. Point is, this is a first step, and it probably won't be the last step. We go to an area which can be help us coordinate and provide a focus for the community. So
good thoughts. So you're basically saying the minimal was 2.
well, two is the ultimate. One is why
And
not?
ultimate and temporarily this one.
Yes, I think we have the objective, we have a starting point, and we have well-defined objectives, stages in which we want to proceed with this thing. In other words, we can't, the Board of Selectmen can't go, oh, thanks, that's great. We'll put a couple lawn chairs out there and that'll be the end of it. That's not that's not what we want those guys to get away with. They have to say, I hate to say this, for those present among us, there's got to be a recognition that in fact, whatever we do is trial, see what it works, next stage, until in fact we come up with something that one that we can afford to pay for over a period of time, and number 2 satisfies some of the objections that I thought were important here. Coordinates, gathers, that sort of thing.
Sounds good.
Can I go back to my recommendation for this one? Because I just saw something on the plan I totally would not support at all.
All right.
The language, it says attractive perennial garden. And then in the corner, it says some pollinator plants on northwest edge. So the whole garden is pollinator garden, native plants, and is attractive. So, you know, it sort of implies that there's some pollinator plants are part of that. I don't know if that was the intent, but the attractive pollinator garden, you know, I just think there's some real problems with that language. And I'm not going to support that going.
Well, that's an element of it that you're not supporting, but are you not supporting?
I'm not supporting anything about attractive perennial garden.
Okay, so what you do, Fred, is you cross that out really hard.
I think for the committee.
All right.
I mean, because it's sending a negative message about.
Yeah, and
what's
so, okay,
planted
so
there.
that's good. So asterisk on that one, and you would have a comment for that down below, I think, right? I mean, you can't 86 the whole thing because of.
Well, I would. I mean, I'm that strongly opinionated that the messaging has to be clear that pollinator gardens are attractive, and it's not some, if there's a flower garden in there that are perennial or non-perennial, it's a pollinator habitat.
Okay, so you
take the word attractive out of the.
And some pollinator plants.
No, a perennial garden.
So when you start those gardens, they
Can
just-
I ask the chair for clarification?
Please.
Are we seeking now to come up with an interim recommendation or an interim report on our activities?
I think that is the whole entire first section of that draft that I did was listing our activities.
Okay,
So I think that part is written.
so
This
we're
is-
trying to get to an interim, but I don't know what an interim recommendation means. What I would like to report to the select board is that we've had fascinating conversation. We have areas of agreement. We have areas of apparently vile disagreement. However,
But attractive.
there is progress. There is progress being made. Fitful though it may seem. And what we require from the select board is more time and their good faith support. And what we could also use is some indication on what funds are available. And if there's a willingness to engage in a broader kind of visioning of this whole area, because, you know, as wonderful as this idea is, it obliges activity to make it work outside the scope of this group. It requires a sidewalk to run up St. Mark's Street on one side of the street or the other, all the way to Common Street. Otherwise, this is a dead duck, right? And so if the town is not willing to commit to that, we're just talking in circles and arguing for nothing. So, you know, what a kind of appalls me in this whole matter, and this is what I am bringing to the table, is a sense that a larger conception is required, one that thinks that this park is part of an entire downtown parcel that includes the town green, which is in poor repair, that includes the old burial ground, which is neglected in terms of its maintenance, that includes the flag school, which is shortly to be vacated, which is right across the street from this parcel, that includes a sense of the library's future. It includes all of those things as part of a holistic conception. And without that, we're just going to sit here and make a small little recommendation, and then the select board will do whatever they want to do anyway. And you know, and Godspeed at town meeting. I just think that I see areas of agreement. I see progress. I think we're doing some good here. I think we're finding some things again that we all agree on. I happen to like this plan quite a bit.
Which one?
But this one,
The Patty?
Patty plan.
Yeah.
I think it needs alterations. I mean, I think
It does need alteration.
what's come out is an agreement is coming
It's hyper, and she just suggested.
that
the other-
there's a connecting path to the library. There are things, we'll get there. We would get there. And I am happy and comfortable, if that's the consensus, to use this as a basis for going forward with the adjustments that all of us need to be made. But what I'm saying is, if I'm making a report to the select board right now, I would say, hey, we've got some encouraging news. We've got some areas of agreement, but we need a little space, a little slack, and a little support. And contrary to some feeling on this working group, I think progress is being made. And however, there's, you know, this working group was handed a bad deal. I don't blame anybody for that, and I'm not trying to like rehash past history.
No,
we were handed a
opportunity.
nasty
No.
bag of tricks here with all kinds of political, financial, moral questions that really it made the job very, very difficult.
Okay,
and
but
if
Kevin,
anybody wants to know what the
let's-
historical commission brought to this, it made sure that we didn't erect a park on Native American burial ground. And I will, if that's my legacy, I'll live with it and be happy with it. But you know, so progress takes time. Rome wasn't built in a day. Whatever cliche you want, we will get there if we all continue to hold together and try to treat each other respectfully and with some sense of good faith. But we're getting there. But I think the report I would make to the select board next week is we're working our asses off here and we're making progress. Give us a little time, get through town meeting, get your approval, and then we'll give you a design.
Okay, so here's James wanted to talk with him. Then I'll talk.
And I apologize for the heat, by the way, but I feel very passionately about this. And I think we all do. We've all put a lot into this, and to it just harp on this sort of impatience. We've got to get it done. We've got to get it done. We've got to get it done is not helpful.
Well, getting an interim report and it's not the same.
Bill,
as
I mean, we
getting
may
it
have wanted it done yesterday. I hear you. I would like to be done with this.
Yeah, I can think of like 1,000 things we'd all have to be doing.
This committee will outlive me, I predict.
Oh, no.
Let me, I think, Kevin, I agree with you in the sense that what we have talked about, what I was just outlining, is the exact process that I think we're looking for.
Well, and I loved your idea that you said it had to be something to unify the town, right? A place to bring people together.
That's the final objective.
But
it's a process.
Right.
Right.
So we have some areas of agreement.
So we can basically say there is a minimalist area, and we will then evaluate the use of that.
Right.
And we will take it step by step as money and interest becomes available. But the Board of Selectmen, if they approve this and take even any of these ideas to town meeting, will be that whatever is decided today is not future. We will grow with that step by step by step, as you suggest.
Right. I mean, you know, this part, and this is why the modest suggestion I made about even broadening the input, whether that's conditional public forums or some sort of design competition, because again, I think a vision is needed. And this is one vision, and one vision I happen to like. And you know,
the vision will grow.
The vision will grow and evolve. And all I'm saying is, I think that the people that have the real power here should say, let's get the approval of town meeting, and let's hope we get it. And then let's give you the working group some time to get their, you know, continue to think, continue to solicit public input, and come up with something that people really like. I don't need a competition if there's no appetite for that. Just like I proposed a fountain, there was no appetite for that. I don't need that either. But I don't want to be sitting around here picking between a granite bench and a Trex bench and a dog watering station, which is called a spigot. I think we need some larger vision of what we want to do here, and do it in some way that considers the entire area. But of course, that's outside. What I'm saying, all I was saying about this design is, it doesn't work unless the town is willing to build a sidewalk up St. Mark Street, the common street that doesn't exist and doesn't show on any plans yet. So
here's my motto. Don't bother don't ask for forgiveness, for example. Just go off and do it. We have, as a committee here, the potential for redesigning that entire downtown area if we want to stick to it. I defy the Board of Selectmen to say, oh, we're going to abolish that committee and not let you proceed with a better vision.
Right, so that's why I suggest that our interim report, not interim recommendation, is we're making progress, we're working really hard, we got some ideas, we'll need some more time, and we hope you'll support that.
Oh, I agree with you. That should be the last sentence. But
and we thank you for your support until this point.
there we go.
Then would you not say anything about?
On that topic,
Sure, I would say, I just
on the
said it.
potential
I
for
like
an interim recommendation, I listened very intently to what you just said, and I tried to incorporate this into revised language. So I'll read the whole thing again, but keep in mind I added an additional paragraph here. The working group recommends that, to leave room for any future improvement, the minimum to be done to the space to make it usable by the public at minimal cost should include planting native plants and shrubs, planting trees, including large heritage trees, planting lawn or lawn alternative where appropriate, leaving room for benches and a path through the park, making space for historical markers, and making the space as accessible as possible to all members of the public. Furthermore, that the available funds for any such development be ascertained, and that more public comment and design be solicited, and keeping in mind that the park is in a central location in Southborough, both symbolically and physically. Furthermore, that 4 designs as a result of VHB and public comment are inspiration for future finalized designs, which demonstrate the ideas of the group. Below are the opinions of the working group on specific items, historical themes, and potential names for immediate consideration. Again, keeping in mind that the recommendations included are on an interim basis and are preliminary and in no way final. Because I think it is worth it to tell the select board, and by extension, the members of the public, that we do have some ideas that, in general, going forward, we're thinking about putting in trees and replanting plants, because right now it's all dirt. And I think that's a good basis for anything in the future.
Can you take out the word immediate?
Yes, so yes, I read. So
we're saying for the future, then you're going immediate.
Okay, so not for immediate consideration, but for
Timely.
We don't need that.
Just say consideration.
For
Just take it
consideration.
out. Does it, whatever they do.
Yeah,
Okay, now.
Can I say that I think that, sorry, Margarita, I do think I'm perfectly willing to say, if you want to call it a recommendation, that's fine. These are the things that we like so far, because there's actually widespread agreement here,
Yes.
right? There are
Go
certain
figure.
elements that we like, and we'd like to refine them going forward. So I'm perfectly comfortable with that. Perfectly comfortable. And I'm perfectly comfortable, for instance, because I agree, there seems to be a consensus that this is the strongest. There are elements here that are very strong contender. And so I'm comfortable with that as well.
So it sounds like we have.
our interim report.
Well, so I did include everything in here, like the dog walker spigot. No, really, this will, if it is okay, this is, I know, but this
my dog loves it. We stop in the rural cemetery and give him a little drinky and.
That's not the main attraction though. So
these are the,
My
Madam Chair.
and not to be
Yes,
snarky.
just like time out just for 2 seconds here because it's getting along. The moon is full of people.
It is.
Nobody believes that, but it's true. I think your language would be excellent for the interim reports. I think that the beginning of the draft that I wrote, which is historically everything that we've
Yes.
done, including the wonderful prioritization list and everything else, I can include after this. And if
yes,
I can put that together, is that you get, James, you are the best. Put this together in a long working document and send it to everybody. Can we agree on that? Because I think, I hesitate to say this, but I think we have come to something that would be a passable interim report.
I agree. Just as part of that language, it is including the opinion. So I have only 19 things here. And 4 of those are the 4 different plans and the different themes. So if we could end by going around, I propose we go around, get the opinions on these things, and that'll just go include to the language, and that'll be in the report.
Okay, so
Is that-
call
is
the
that-
19th thing.
is that the survey you just
It's,
sent out?
it is the
What
cert.
19 things?
So here, I'll read these, I'll read all of them, and I'll know we can take things off if we don't.
Before
want
you do that, because I just want to understand, you sent out a survey.
Yes,
Is this what this is, or is this something different?
it is, includes most of the same things, but this vote will be a different format because it will be the public opinion of the members.
Right, the other survey was anonymous.
I think that's how you encaptured there's. I mean, the main. What is the part? I mean, I think that. What is the language that captures that of the different proposed, visuals shown so far? That
So-
I think that Patty's best reflects.
So you would rather write that than go over the individual items? We can do that.
Let's go over the individual just so we have the data and then we can take it after that.
Okay, so here it's opinions on the plaza, the fence on Route 85, the room for future library expansion, ground lighting, water bubbler, shade sails, electricity and Wi-Fi connection, ponder fountain, an EV charger, extend the sidewalk to St. Mark's Circle, and then themes and names for the park would be Southborough Tricentennial, focus on the indigenous peoples of Southborough, a focus on the marginalized people of Southborough, a focus on the potential home of William Washington, a focus on general Southborough Heritage Park, and then the 4 different plans that we have, 3 by VHB and 1 submitted by Ms. Fiore.
I'm good with that.
Where's St. Mark's Circle?
That's the road where the big St. Mark's mansion is that they own.
Because pine flags.
It's
Right
where-
behind.
it's where the headmaster, the head of school.
Like connect the
Sorry.
sidewalk, extend the sidewalk
Where
down
the
to
fields
the
are,
street.
behind the,
Yeah.
Yeah.
okay.
Between the field and
All right.
the plant school.
So I can, if that's so.
I think it's great. Does
So
anyone
what
object?
about, I mean, just for the. And then,
I see
do we
your
have? Just,
I'll let Andrew go first.
are people available next week for a meeting that would be to just finalize this document?
Yes.
Sure.
What day?
Depends.
I have no idea. What's today?
I'm-
Friday, Thursday? God.
Christmas Eve, let's do it.
Can we cross
Andrew,
off, if we're submitting this with the plan, can we cross off the objectionable language?
Yes, please.
Sure. Can you send a version of this? That
I
takes
think
out
since
the
it was submitted through the public comment, I think we should put a note under it with our name. Public comment.
Patty, yes, go ahead.
I kind of, take notice of the words objectionable wording here and tend to disagree. I apologize, Freddie, but I haven't seen one attractive pollinator garden in this town. And the dramatic use of plastic flags
and plastic sticks on each and every plant that is polluting our topsoil and groundwater with microplastics and plasticizers is absolutely appalling to me.
You know what I'd like to do right now? Because we're a little off topic, I'd like to declare a 5-minute recess so we can all go to the break.
I've really written them down, so I have like just a couple of them.
Okay, but I think that's not really our charge. I think that's a separate.
I know, but you're insisting on this pollinator garden. And it's actually, I have read the application for the grant. I have read the press release from the state, the grant. I have read the press release from the town. And not in there in one place does it mention that it includes a pollinator garden or native plants. What it does say is that it is a grant for a history walk, sidewalks, and a gathering space. So I have the 2 press releases in front of me. And can assure you, it does not need to include a pollinator garden.
Madam Chair.
Can I just chime in that topic for a minute?
Just
Go ahead.
Okay. To kind of complete where I was going with this, I think we have fleshed out a next step, which would be if we are available for a meeting next week, short, focused, just on in advance. We'll take this and then what
he said.
Yep. So I think the section 1, the background.
Before designs.
I would just stop here at page 6,
right.
The memorial theme. I don't think we really have a consensus.
So you
if you just took that out. Public section 4 public forum input, and then the section 5 summary and recommendations. So take a look at what you can move that to the front, and then have afterwards lay out the timeline. All the background of all the discussions.
I think absolutely true. So the summary and recommendations at the top, and then this data. Minus the naming part. No, not the naming part, but
the memorial theme.
Right. Okay. So James, you can get what you have on that to me by email. I can assimilate it into a giant document, send it around to everybody. Great.
And then
Go for it.
So we're still going to be voting on.
Are we? I just feel like we're so close. We're
there basically. We've got it. So we can vote on our preferences, but that is just going to be part of the later data, but not the summary and recommendations, which will be what we just read that.
And these would be included with the previous PowerPoint of the different priorities that we. Okay.
Yeah. Yes.
No, one could include them all there and say these are all the things.
Yeah.
Consider.
Right. So if I can get a
Margaret.
Yes.
Can I ask a quick question?
Sure.
The forum that we had was excellent. The participants were engaged, but at the end of that engagement with everyone, and Mrs. Priori showed her plan. I'm not sure who took it. I think it was you, Margaret, as far as what the consensus of the room was. And there was probably 20 residents of Southborough that were not part of the committee in this room. And with plan 1, plan 2, plan 3. And then none of them received support. Sure, any one of those 3 plans. There was a compromise amongst all of us. Patty put it on paper. But the individuals in this room, some of the suggestions that Mrs. Fiore had put on paper were some of the same concepts as far as extending the sidewalk and other things at other tables. So I'm a little concerned that that forum pattern or what took place at that forum may not be discussed in your letter.
It is discussed.
No,
I don't have the letter, so I don't know what it is.
Support any of the designs from VHB?
Okay.
Is that in there? The public forum did not endorse any design.
well,
I don't think that was.
That wasn't true at my table.
I mean, some tables supported one, some tables supported the other.
Yeah.
Well, I agree. There wasn't a majority support for anything, but there was some support.
It was
for everyone.
so
I will make sure that I have a bulleted list of about 40 things that were written down on all the pages.
That's right.
I will add at the top of the list, I will say, no consensus on plans designed by VHB.
Or any plan.
Yeah, on any plan.
That's true, consensus, because people
That's
like
fine, but
some
it really
people
comes down to like
different ones.
support for.
Now, if we can,
I agree.
I do strongly think that these items should be included in this interim
So
recommendation.
you're gonna ask us and we'll vote up and down on them?
Yes,
Okay.
and we can hopefully do this quickly. So we'll start with Freddie and we'll just move clockwise down the table.
Sounds like a
Should we
plan.
just vote if we support it, so that way
Well,
we just have a number of how many
And
support?
you've got a heading for each.
No, I'll say your name and you say yes, no, or no opinion, and I can mark that down.
You don't have
So-
names, kind of.
Yeah. Well, I mean, what's the difference between no opinion and maybe?
Abstain.
All right, keep going.
Okay. We'll start with the plaza. Freddie,
You want one?
yes, no, no opinion.
You're going through every one of these and asking us all to vote on every single one. of them.
Yes, we're going to have data coming out of our ears and it'll be very useful.
That's-
Freddie, do you
yeah,
want a
that's a
plaza
while.
or no?
What?
That's gonna take a while.
Well, we'll try and get through quickly.
We never discussed what a plaza was, so I can't answer that.
Okay.
Okay.
So,
I think we have a patio
Okay,
No,
seating area.
or opposed.
Give me 1 second.
This is
Apologies,
plaza.
man.
It's not the plaza.
Okay. Freddie was 0. Grant? No?
Opposed, or no?
I'm gonna say yes, because I consider the things on all these plans, plazas are like little spaces.
So I said yes to a
Yeah.
patio.
Oh. I'll change it to patio then. Patio, Freddie. Trust me, Bill, trust me. Yes, patio,
No.
inhale,
No.
exhale.
yes on patio. Marguerite,
So yes, definitely.
Andrew,
Yes.
Kevin,
Abstain.
Bill.
yes,
Barrier or fence on Route 85 to stop children from going in the road. Freddie,
I don't want children in the road, but I don't want a fence,
okay. So no fence.
no fence.
Grant,
No offense.
Shrubs
I-
can do-
I would support a fence.
I would
Marguerite,
support a fence.
Andrew,
Shrubs can do it.
No.
Kevin,
No.
Bill.
no,
Room for future library expansion. That would be for the parking lot, I believe. Freddie,
If the town needs an expansion, how do you say no, but came in pretty late in this discussion. Staying.
Grant,
Yes.
James, yes. Marguerite,
Yes,
Andrew,
Yes.
Kevin,
Yes.
Bill.
no,
All right, ground lighting. Freddie,
No,
Grant.
Sorry, what is ground lighting?
Like
along the pucks.
you don't want to
Oh, okay,
pass,
so not large.
Yeah.
not large street lights.
not
Ground
like
lighting.
that, so.
Support.
James, yes. Marguerite,
yes.
Andrew, Kevin?
Yes.
Kevin, no.
Yes,
Bill, yes. Water bubbler. Freddie,
Absolutely.
Grant,
Refill, not bubble.
or
Abstain.
James, yes. Marguerite,
Yes,
Andrew,
No.
Kevin,
No.
Bill.
no,
Shade sales. Freddie,
Shade sales.
Yes.
What does that mean?
whatever. the
like a
age
physical
is.
thing that is.
Oh,
is
sales,
shade.
SAIL.
Yes,
It was discussed until the trees got big enough to provide
Grant?
shade.
White sale, but they sell sheep.
Yeah.
James, no. Marguerite,
No,
Andrew,
No.
Kevin,
No.
Bill.
yes,
Electricity / Wi-Fi. Freddie,
Yeah,
Grant,
I agree with Wi-Fi. I don't know about the logistics though, like electric plugs or anything like that, but I'd say yes on Wi-Fi. So yeah.
James, yes. Marguerite,
yes.
Andrew,
No.
Kevin,
No.
Bill.
yes,
There.
Pond or fountain. Freddie, or not pond or fountain. Pond / fountain.
No.
Grant? No. James, no. Marguerite?
No.
Andrew?
No.
Kevin?
You bunch of stinkers. Yes.
Bill?
No, too expensive.
An EV charger. I request that we remove this one because I don't think we can actually. It's actually
Nobody's gonna
yeah.
park their car in the park, right? I mean,
all right. Extend sidewalk up St. Mark's Street to St. Mark's Circle. Freddie.
Say that again?
Extend the sidewalk up the street to that road we were talking about, to St. Mark's Circle.
The
Yes.
playing field. yeah.
Yes. Grant.
I think it's really out of our purview, but I'll say yes.
James, yes. Marguerite.
Yes.
Andrew.
Yes.
Kevin.
Yes.
Bill.
Yes.
Okay, now we are on to themes / names, names lightly. All right, Southborough Tricentennial. Freddie.
No.
Grant.
Which one is it, the theme or the name?
Name.
Both.
No.
No. James, no. Marguerite.
No.
Andrew.
Yes.
Kevin.
No.
Bill.
Abstain.
Abstain.
Can you add Heritage Park? in
Yes,
there?
we did.
Okay.
All right.
Oh,
Indigenous.
yeah, Heritage? Well, it's,
No. That's a separate one.
oh, okay. All right, well, I might change my vote then.
So, would you like to change your vote?
Is Heritage one coming up?
Yes.
Okay, I'm gonna vote yes for that and vote no for it.
We'll get back. Okay. Indigenous people of Southborough. Freddie.
This is what, the
The-
name of the park?
The historical theme and consideration for the name.
Yeah.
Yes. Grant.
Yes.
I mean, it's not really a name, is it? But so it's a no.
No.
This is a name.
James abstain. Marguerite.
Yes.
Yes. Andrew.
Yes, but I'm sorry to caveat this one. I mean, I think the idea is in Heritage Park and then the content of historical plaques.
So this is the main theme. The main theme.
Indigenous.
So there's,
Oh, the next thing, no.
Then I'll say
there
no.
are two different things. One is the theme of what we want the park to be about and historical markers and what we want the actual name
Yes.
on. I think they're two different things, aren't they?
Okay.
Can
I
I
just want heritage.
You want to change to
say no? I mean, just even that question is, after some workshops I've recently been in for Indigenous Month is appallingly inappropriate.
So what are the?
That we don't
options?
know, but
Maybe
it
just
is.
read all the options and then.
that we don't know.
So as who's sitting at this table doesn't understand. You wouldn't name the park or have the theme be Indigenous people for us.
Yeah.
Okay.
We wouldn't do it. It's,
No, it's patronizing. How about using just heritage and getting rid of?
Okay.
I mean, can you take that question out? It's offensive to
Well,
the people you're trying to honor.
Okay. By permission of the group, I'll remove this question.
Thank you.
Okay. A historical theme and name mainly on the marginalized people of Southborough.
It's included, but it's not the theme.
Okay, wait, question. So in the beginning of this, it was the things that were unanimous that we wanted, the shrubs, the trees, lawn where appropriate. Since I get the feeling that are we settled on Heritage Park as a general theme?
Yes.
Any objection?
And that includes all of these other.
Yes.
Yeah, that was a huge deal.
Great.
Good. I think that is a good name.
Then we will take opinions on the plan. So this is, would you be comfortable with this plan with minimal changes?
What plan?
Exactly. So the VHB1 plan, Freddie.
Are we picking our number one top one again? or
No.
just-
1, 2, 3.
Yes, no.
That's tricky, James, because we might be happy with it in 5 years, but right now immediately we might be happy with it.
Yes, so this is for as
Immediate.
consideration. As the first thing we do with this
Okay.
land.
Oh, no.
Oh,
No.
the first thing we do.
Grant.
Okay.
Which one? Plan one?
Yes.
No, for us.
James, no. Marguerite,
No, I don't think for it.
Andrew. Kevin,
Whoa.
Thank you.
You're looking for just like a yes, no?
yes,
Is it?
That's the first thing we do.
Yes.
yes, Kevin,
No.
Bill,
No, because I think it would be impressive.
good. All right, the second VHB plan, Freddie,
No,
Grant,
No.
me, James, yes, Marguerite,
No,
Andrew,
No.
Kevin,
No.
Bill.
Impractical, no.
All right, the third VHB plan, Freddie,
Yes.
Grant,
Yes.
James, yes, Marguerite,
No.
Andrew,
Yes.
Kevin,
Abstain.
Bill.
No, impractical.
Thank you. And then finally, the plan submitted by Ms. Fiore. Fred.
With the,
The addendum.
with the.
Yes, so with minimal changes would include the ones you recommended.
For it to be submitted to the select.
Yes.
First step.
Yes.
Grant,
Yes.
James, yes, Marguerite,
Yes.
Andrew,
Yes.
Kevin,
Yes.
Bill.
Yes, at first step.
Okay, that took 4 minutes.
Nice one.
Thank you.
Yeah,
So,
got to the hard part.
okay, so let me, I think I'll reread this one final time. This will be what is in this report, and it'll include these 13 votes on these things, okay? And then can we approve the minutes tonight, or do we want to wait?
Yes, we're gonna do the minutes.
We have to do the
I
minutes.
was just a bit confused on the name. So what are we gonna?
Alright.
Or
So-
did we vote on the names?
No, we did not vote on the names. That the main theme and potential name would be around Southborough Heritage Park.
Okay.
Okay, so the working group recommends that to leave room for any future improvement, the minimum to be done to the space to make it usable by the public at minimum cost should include planting native plants and shrubs, planting trees, including large heritage trees, planting lawn or lawn alternative where appropriate, leaving room for benches and a path through the parcel, making space for historical markers, making the space as accessible as possible to all members of the public, and focusing on a theme and potential name close to, or focusing on a theme and potential name around Southborough's heritage capitalized. Furthermore, that the available funds for any such development be ascertained, and that more public comment and design be solicited, and keeping in mind that the park is in a central location in Southborough, both symbolically and physically. Furthermore, that 4 designs as a result of VHB landscaping engineering and from public comment are inspirations for future finalized designs which demonstrate the ideas of the group. Below are the opinions of the working group on specific items, historical themes, on different, because we already discussed the historical themes, so on specific items and plans for consideration. Again, keeping in mind that the recommendations included are on an interim basis and are preliminary and in no way final. And then it'll be the 13 things that we just talked about. Does that sound good?
I think that's fabulous.
I have one petition. I don't have it in front of me, but about halfway through in which you talked about the costs to be processing. Could you repeat that sentence?
Furthermore, that the available funds for any such development be ascertained, and that more public comment and design be solicited, and keeping in mind that the park is in a central location in Southborough, both symbolically and physically.
Okay. I like that language. I personally, I think it will probably happen anyway with the land swap, but I would like to see something in there about the park be built on town-owned property.
I don't care one way or the other, so I guess we should pick a vote on
Can
it.
I make just a very quick and brief remark about this issue of money? Because what that rhetoric is, and kudos, by the way, to James for a future television star, game show host. We're asking, but basically what that rhetoric asks for is a budget, right? And my observation is that a small vision gets you small dollars. This is a rich town with a lot of rich people in it, some of whom are potential donors that would take the town off the hook in a major way. And if you present them with an aspirational vision that someone could actually get excited about, somebody might open up their pocketbook or their wallet or their checkbook and come forward and gift this town with something truly special. But if we don't offer a special vision, we're not going to get that money.
I would argue that
taxpayers will be paying for a mediocre park and I'm not saying that we're gonna get a mediocre park, but potentially if we offer a not a strong enough vision. And I think we have a wonderful starting point. But again, this is why I advocate for just some truly visionary thinking. And again, I take it upon myself that I'm not a design professional. I've struggled to find it. And that's why I've grasped at thinking about larger ways, trying to draw in some truly visionary talent. I go and look at Art on the Trails every year over at Beals, right, which is inaccessible, of course, to people with mobility issues.
Oh,
but wouldn't but I think to myself, when I see that stuff, there's some wonderful, wonderful artistic, creative talent in this town and around it. And I just would like to find a way, perhaps through additional public forums with the Bayou lead of the select board, to find a way to draw in a truly visionary conception for this park. And again, because that might get us some money and not a shuttle.
I like that idea, and I include something. Graham, what were you saying earlier about the wording of that? What did you say?
To clarify the ownership.
Oh yes, clarify the ownership.
Any potential park would be built on
Should we write that?
Well, I'm okay with building it on an easement, so I'm gonna vote it.
Is that outside the purview of the committee or not?
Can I include a sentence that the ownership of the park location be definitively asserted?
We're not gonna spend town money on anything that's not defined.
Can't spend taxpayer money. It's not owned by the town.
I don't think we need to get into this.
I don't think we need to get into it either. I think that we don't understand what's happening and what's coming
I
up.
think you're kind of implicitly.
Well, currently it's currently St. Mark's land, right?
Correct.
So we,
As part of our recommendations.
Yes,
we want
I think
our
we're
community to build
assuming-
park on St. Mark's land.
I think we're assuming that we will get it.
Okay.
Is that okay?
I disagree, but that's just me.
I can't imagine what kind of agreement we might have, but there might be something.
I think this.
Still St. Mark's, but we built something out.
I can't imagine that it's gonna move forward.
Yeah,
Yeah.
practically.
We don't have a solution.
Exactly.
So
Park's a dead deal if we don't.
So we don't need, we don't need to say that, because who's going to read this and think, oh, these people definitely want this weird legal situation to continue.
But wait, that is.
I don't want to
just
Exactly.
We're coming close to finalizing
Yes.
this and then bring it.
It'll be
Exactly.
resolved in March.
So I think we should leave out any discussion of land. That's okay.
Do we need to vote on that?
No. So Kevin, to your point,
Easements were turned
They
down
were not
unanimously.
taking public comment. Kevin,
There's no
so
easement.
I reworded it that, keeping in mind that the park is in a central location in South Grove, both symbolically and physically, any design for the park should be truly visionary and inspirational for public input, or inspirational through public input on the design of the park.
Sounds good.
Thank you. Okay,
Well done.
thank you.
Okay, so
So-
that is locked up. The history is locked up. What else do we?
So then, I think it makes sense for someone. Will need to. The format that we suggested, have to send around a revised version of this, and then okay, and then. Should we have a meeting? Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, that would just be focused on finalizing this, just because I don't know how other people feel, at this point, just delegate to
No,
the
we
chair
have to
completely.
look at it. Yeah,
So my
I
suggestion,
ensure that all the changes will be made correctly and everything.
Absolutely.
Let's take one last look at it
Yep.
before.
Yep.
so Marguerite, if it's okay, since I have all this here, I can edit the report to change the order and include what we just discussed.
That's good.
And then I will send it out as soon as possible, so people have the weekend to look it over. So I'm wondering if Monday is okay, so we can do this while it's still fresh in our minds.
Wait.
Too late to
Yes.
post for a meeting.
Too late for Monday.
Okay, so
Freddie, yes?
Well, I can't meet.
Okay, Tuesday?
I could meet Tuesday.
This would have to be posted in the morning by
You would
9
absolutely
AM.
guys.
By 10
This-
o'clock in the morning.
this segment goes, all right, so why don't we'll do it for Tuesday?
Can you post it by
For
Yeah,
Tuesday,
Do it right now.
December, today's the 8th.
2 agenda items,
What are the 2 agenda items?
minutes,
13.
No,
Yes.
I'm just, okay, minutes and.
just 2, no other,
Yes.
just 2.
Minutes and.
Just-
Edit of the.
Yeah.
And I will be insistent that we do not bring up any other items.
Okay, good.
Just 2.
Yeah.
So Memorial theme is out. right?
Okay. So in that case, then the final thing we have to do tonight is move on to the approval of
The
the
minutes,
minutes.
all right.
Wait a minute, did that last?
Look, if we have if we could table this until the next meeting, just,
The minutes,
you know.
We're meeting on
legally-
Tuesday, we could. Oh, wait a minute, is
Can
it
we-
something that needs approval?
I think the minutes from October 27th,
Okay.
which are fairly short, so that we
We'll take a
can,
look at them.
page, right?
okay.
I
Minutes
I
for-
just have one item. On
Yes.
October 27, James.
Hmm.
We talk about William Washington. Would you kindly change the rhetoric to be, instead of, I don't have it in front of me, you have a line,
Yes,
freedman or something like that?
yes, how, oh, yeah.
Well, William Washington was not a slave at any time,
Hmm.
so it's inappropriate to call him a freedman. He was the first free black resident of
Yes,
Southborough, so he just first free capital B black resident.
I'm born after this.
Can you, which meeting that's
And
where again?
we have
October
we have
27th.
Sally Waters in part to thank for the unbelievable research she's engaged in on William Washington, which I hope you will share. Is that okay if I?
It's
Well-
going to go on the
The Historical Society.
I apologize for that.
Yeah, no, that's.
All right, any other corrections? No,
That's
okay.
fine with me. Okay.
Okay, do I have a motion to,
So
accept
I move we
amended?
accept them by, can we accept them by unanimous consent?
I think we're on Zoom, so we have to do.
No, we're in person.
I move that we accept the minutes of October 27th, 2022 by unanimous consent. Is there any objection?
Second.
We have a second.
Oh, seconded. Is there any objection? Any objection? Hearing none, the minutes are approved unanimously.
Thank you.
It is a little bit. Why don't we just, if it's,
Wait.
we just take a vote? Everyone's in favor.
I don't think you can do that.
We can't do that?
No, you can't.
Oh,
You're not the chair for that.
I agree.
No, I think we should just take a vote, get it over. with.
Yes.
Okay, do we have a vote to accept the minutes of December 2nd?
I make a motion, we accept the minutes of December 2nd.
Second, all right,
October 27th.
October 27th.
all right, ready? Your vote?
Wait, this,
Wait.
that's a second.
Somebody has to
Seconded.
second.
Will did,
I did,
Will did,
second,
all right. You approve, okay,
Aye.
Marguerite, aye?
Aye.
aye,
Okay, approved as amended. All right, which are the next ones?
Well,
Number 12?
I thought we were gonna delay the others to the.
Yes, we're
Okay,
Yeah.
all right.
tabled. Next meeting for the working group Tuesday, December 13th at 7 PM. It is 9:17. I'm moved to adjourn.
Second. You want to put on the agenda or shall I?
Can you call?
Yes, can you call roll call?
We gotta
Margaret,
vote on the motion to adjourn.
Oh, the motion's yours, sorry. Ready?
proof.
Aye.
James,
Aye.
Marguerite, aye.
Aye.
Miller, aye.
aye,
Meeting is adjourned.
done.
Tuesday, the,
13th.
where are
Seven-
we
7
meeting?
o'clock.
I gotta get.
If it's okay, can we meet on Zoom that night?
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
And I'll look at the same document.
Yes.
you know.
Let's stay here forever.
No, I have clear what you do. Very close to
And you did it.
Yeah, they actually say it over.
Did I have?
Okay.